Welcome to the Proud American Patriot Podcast. I'm your host, Chad, and today I've got Mike from Just Us Thinking here with me again. Going to talk about another issue that is near and dear to my heart. Stray away a little bit from the politics. We'll probably get into some of that with this, but it's going to be the Pew Pew.
Oh, I do love some Pew Pew.
You are a Pew Pew subject matter expert in a lot of things. You've got a lot of experience with them, so I thought, who better to talk to about the Pew Pew?
Well, I unfortunately have a lot of experience with it, so yeah.
We'll maybe get into all of that another day, but so we're here in Nebraska, and on September 2nd, we had something, in my mind, very important happen. We went to constitutional carry, which for those of you who don't know what that means as long as you can buy and own a firearm, you can legally carry it concealed.
Yep. Now, we still also have a concealed carry permit you can get. I just got a notice from mine that I have to renew mine next year.
Which is, at this point, is almost pointless. And there are a couple of perks that you have for having that concealed carry permit. Mainly when you're going to purchase a firearm, gets rid of some of the paperwork that you have to do. But are you going to renew it, or are you just going to go with the constitutional carry?
No, I think I'm going to renew it. That way I have that card when I go to another state. Mm-hmm. I can actually produce that. It also shows law enforcement or anybody else you run into that you've had some training, you know what I mean?
And that kind of gets us into some of my thoughts on constitutional carry, because I'm big 2A supporter. I think the Second Amendment was put in there for a reason, and it was put in as the Second Amendment for a reason, because it is important. But I think there are also some potential traps with constitutional carry.
I agree.
I think everyone, if you're a good, upstanding citizen, should be able to carry and protect yourself. I think that's a fundamental right in this country. But I am also scared that there are going to be some people that want to go out and play cowboy. Right.
I guess that's my problem too. There are a lot of people that are not educated enough to, I believe, that they should be able to carry a gun if you're not educated. Same thing with driving a vehicle. I don't think you should just get behind the wheel and drive a car. I hate to say it that way. You do have the freedom to travel. I mean, mm-hmm. Traveling is a fundamental right as well. But if you're going to be ignorant about it, that's where my problem is.
Right. And there are rules that you have to follow, whether you have a concealed carry permit or you're carrying underneath constitutional carry. And unfortunately, they are a little bit cloudy here. The big one is if an establishment makes more than 50% of their profit on alcohol, you cannot carry a firearm there. Problem is, how do you know? I know we were talking about this a few weeks ago, and there's a state or two where if it's a bar and restaurant, they have to put up a sticker on their door that says either
51%.
51%, which lets you know, okay, I can't carry in here.
Right.
We don't have that here. So what am I supposed to do? Go to the local bar and restaurant, and before I go in, ask them and say, hey, how much money do you make on alcohol? Because the bartender or the hostess or whoever is going to know that.
Well, and here's my other problem in this state as well. We have these signs out here. So we're a sign state, which means if they have a sign on the door that says no concealed carry permit, you can't carry a gun in there. Now, and this is where I get really torn for that rule. I'm all for businesses conducting their business how they want. Now, what people don't realize and what people don't understand is if I'm sitting in a parking lot and I watch a guy walk up to a store, I see him stop and read a sign. It's very clear what sign he's reading. And then I watch him go back to his car, pull something out of his waistband, and slide it underneath the seat. I know exactly what he did. Now, here's my problem. If I was a bad guy, I now know there is a loaded gun, most likely loaded. Possibly unloaded, but most likely a loaded gun in a unattended vehicle. I know exactly where it's at, And now that sign has made the world a less safe place, because if I wanted to go break the window and grab the gun and be gone, it takes 2 seconds to break into a car.
Oh yeah,
that's not safe.
No, I agree with you there. I do think that you and I are a little bit different than most people in that we are super observant.
Well, yeah.
I don't know that your average everyday Joe Schmo out on the street is going to put one and one together and get 2. They may, but I don't think I don't think the average person is that observant, which is also a problem. I think that whether you're carrying or not, you need to be aware of your surroundings and what's going on around you.
Well, and here's the other problem with that. So let's say now this guy has to disarm, right? Mm-hmm. Instead of just leaving it where it is, and he's probably been background checked and everything else, so he doesn't have to worry about any of that. Right, so he's not a criminal. You probably know he's not a criminal, because criminals don't get permits and shit like that.
And a criminal is not going to pay attention to a sign that says no firearms allowed.
Exactly. So he goes in there, and here's the other problem with it. So let's say he goes back to his car because he's going to abide by the law, and let's say he has to take it out of his waistband, which means he's going to expose that firearm. Mm-hmm. So even if he's going to a lockbox or something, he pulls it out, and then someone in the parking lot sees him with a gun. They're going to call the police, and the police are going to come out for really no reason.
Right.
And now you're wasting resources.
Yeah, because he's following the wishes of an establishment that he wants to be a patron of.
Right. And so now I've heard people that say, I'm concealed carrying. The point of it is them not knowing I have a gun, so, if they get mad because I have to shoot a person that's trying to kill them in there, then they could get mad at me.
That happened, was it last year in a mall? I forget what state it was, but where there was the guy that came in and started shooting, and a guy that had just fairly recently gotten his firearm, and he was a young guy. He was in his young 20s, I want to say. And he shot, 12 rounds, and 10 of them were hits from distance with a pistol.
Oh, that's not bad.
And, he dropped him. Then there was this controversy of, this was a no firearms allowed area. Well, you know what? It's probably good he had that and he didn't pay attention to that sign, because he saved a lot of lives potentially.
Well, and here's a problem. I have so many problems with the signs. I really do. The other problem is when you go into these places and they have they have that sign among 12 other signs. Sometimes it's not you don't really see it, or you know what, they could have the sign and prop the door open. Mm-hmm. I don't know how many times I walked into a place and the manager came out and held the door open for me.
Right.
I walked right in, and
they're blocking the sign.
I couldn't see the sign. And once I came out, I'm like, oh, well, I didn't see the sign, otherwise I wouldn't have taken it. And I know now next time not to go, when I go there, before I even leave out of the car, I'm dropping off my piece. I'm like, I'll just go in there. So,
well, and the other problem is, if you carry on a regular basis, you almost forget it's there.
Yeah.
When you first start carrying, it's uncomfortable. You're shifting it, trying to find that perfect spot for it to fit. Even if you've been carrying for a while, you'll put it in your waistband, and you have to shift that holster a little bit just to get it to where it fits your body right and it's comfortable when you're standing, when you're walking, when you're sitting.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there have been times where someone's been carrying and it's just a part of their body now.
Yeah.
They don't even realize it's there, and walk into some place and they're there and they realize, oh shit, I've still got my gun.
I've done it. I don't know how many times I've done it. I've walked out. I'm like, there's been a few times I saw the sign. I'm like, am I carrying today or not? And I honestly don't know, because I'm so I am a little more sporadic than I was, but generally I'd carry, and I can completely forget it's there. And then there's enough signs there, or if I know I'm going somewhere where it's not allowed, like if I was going to the bowling alley, I'm not going to go bowling, because then I'm not going to throw a bowling ball down the lane and have it slide down out on the alley there. That's not good. So if I'm playing sports or something like
that, and the 9mm picks up the spare.
Right. Well, if I get good, I can hit that 10-pin. That 10-pin in me. I listen. There's not a person in a bowling alley that would not be upset. I'd get a standing applause if I shot the 10-pin and it fell, because everybody hates that son of a bitch.
No one likes the 10-pin.
No.
I don't even bowl and I don't like the 10-pin.
It's one of those things. So. Yeah.
So, and but there are rules that I think are good with it. If you're consuming alcohol, you don't have any reason to have a firearm on you.
I agree.
I don't care if you're just having one drink. No reason for you to have a firearm on you.
I agree.
If you're doing any sort of drugs, no reason for you to have a firearm on you.
I agree.
If you're there to protect yourself, your family, people you don't even know, it's a great thing to have. And the idea of concerns about constitutional carry kind of ties into the next thing that I wanted to get into, and that's train.
Oh yeah.
If you are going to, even if you're not going to carry the firearm outside your house with you, train with it. Get used to holding it. Get used to, if it's a rifle, pulling it up to your shoulder and looking down the sights. Go to the range and fire it so you know what to expect when it kicks. If you're wearing it in a holster, whether it's it's a pistol, whether it's a shoulder holster or something in your waist, get used to drawing it. How you have to clear your garment, so that you can draw it efficiently.
That's a lot of people forget that part. A lot of people, they just like, well, I took it to the range, I shot it. Mm-hmm. But when it comes down to actually drawing it, they get confused. It's not the same. Having a gun on the range and shooting it is completely different than having it and drawing it from your side.
And drawing it from your side is important. And if you're in a high stress situation, you want that to be muscle memory.
Right.
You don't want to have to think, I have to reach over and pull my shirt up so that I can get a hold of the pistol and pull it out cleanly and then pull it up and level it off and aim it. You want that to be second nature, because if it's not, and you're in a high pressure situation, let's just say you're somewhere and there is someone actively shooting and you decide that your best course of action is to engage that person, be it for your protection or protect someone else, and you fumble with getting that pistol out of the holster, you're not doing anyone any good.
Yeah, that could mean the difference of life and death.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the other thing that people don't realize either. One other thing that you really have to work on too is you work on getting it out of the holster. You better work on getting it back into that holster. Because let's say you get a situation where you have to draw it, and thank goodness you didn't have to fire. Then you have to put that gun away. Finger off the trigger, rule number one, always. And when you're putting it back in there, you got to make sure that you know how to put it back in there. Because if you accidentally discharge it when it's going back in the holster, you're going to shoot yourself or possibly somebody else.
Oh, definitely.
And then you just really look like an idiot too.
Well, and even when you go to the range, I think that if you're going to the range just for fun, just to send some lead down range, which is good because, again, you get practice with your firearm. You get used to the little intricacies of it because, you take a Glock 9mm. Glock 9mm is a Glock 9mm is a Glock 9mm all day long.
Right.
But there's still going to be slight little differences in trigger pull, in how the sights are between all of them. So you have to get used to your firearm.
That is correct.
So what I would recommend is, if you are going to conceal carry those days that you want to go to the range, take your concealed carry rig with you and practice drawing it, firing twice, holstering it again.
Well, and I think you have to check with each range. Some ranges do not like holstering because that's where the potential of a misfire has the most potential of happening.
And that's a good point.
There are some ranges that do not like to do that. So check with your local ranges before you do something like that and just say, hey, do you allow draw fire?
And I say that with every range that I've been to, they allow that, but I am sure that there are some that probably do not, just for that reason. But
yep.
The other thing you'll learn real quick, for those of you that don't have a lot of experience with firearms, is a firearm can get kind of hot pretty quick.
Oh, yeah.
Because you've got little explosions going on there. And you'll learn real quick when you're holstering that, how to holster it properly so that you're not rubbing that gun up against bare skin.
Well, that is true. And I will tell you, it's not just, it isn't just, I guess, firing either. If you run into a business and you have to leave your gun in the car and it's 104 degrees outside, when you put that gun back on when you get in the car, it's going to be hot.
Oh, yeah.
If you do that in the middle of winter, it's going to be cold. So you have to understand how to do that kind of stuff, because there's a lot of little idiosyncrasies that go along with carrying a firearm that most people who don't carry don't understand.
Oh, definitely. And you have to, like I said before, it's got to be something where you're almost making it muscle memory and second nature. That's best case scenario.
Yeah.
Because then in a high stress situation, you're not having to think about it. Your body's just doing it.
Right. And that's why you're 100% right. Train. And when you think you have enough training, train some more.
Definitely. It's, I don't have a problem with someone that says, well, I don't have a lot of money to train with. If you've got a 9mm, you can get bulk 9mm range ammo pretty cheap. Or go out. I've not used any of them. We did see one at a Pew Pew Show earlier this year, where you can set it up at your house, and it's got a special little laser bullet that you put in, and it just shoots a laser to. It's going to help with your accuracy and where that barrel is pointing.
Right.
Not so much with the recoil, but they've also improved firearms so much that the recoil is negligible on a lot of firearms anymore.
It really is, and what people don't understand is those little. I think they're the little laser kits that they get. You can hook it up with your cell phone. Everybody has a cell phone. Come on, you hook it up. You do that. You know how you could play quick fire and try and shoot and just trying to get as accurate on that. That costs I think the kit. One of the kits I saw were like $100.
Yeah, like $100 to $150.
You could get. I mean, there's some more expensive kits, so you could get like different bullets and all kinds of stuff for it.
Yeah. $100, $150, you and I can blow that out of the range real quick.
Oh yeah. But it costs nothing to practice drawing your firearm.
And you're at home. You've got half an hour with nothing to do before kids come home or whatever. Go grab that rig, stick it in your waistband, and set it up, and spend 15-20 minutes drawing, leveling the gun down, and firing, and making sure that you're on target when you're doing that.
I'll tell you a cheap, very cheap way of doing this too. Generally, when you pull a firearm, it's going to be a life or death situation, and generally, it's going to be very short distance. Mm-hmm. I will tell you a very cheap way of doing it. What you do is you get a pencil and a little Scotch tape, and you tape the pencil to that, and you have a sheet of paper in front of you, and you just float a piece of paper in front of you, and when you draw, stab it. Because that pencil is going to be where you're going to aim, and you could actually. It costs nothing.
Right. Well, and the other thing that I learned going back many years when I was looking at going into law enforcement and took a firearms class, the thing that made the most sense, that the teacher who was a sheriff of a town nearby. Thing that he said that made the most sense is, if you think about it, one, you want to have your finger on the trigger until you're ready to pull that trigger and discharge a round, which is it should be basic firearms common sense.
Yeah.
But he said, pull your firearm, point it at the target with your finger outside the trigger.
Yep.
Where your finger is pointing, that's where your gun is aiming.
Yeah. Because it should be along the side.
Mm-hmm. So even if you just get used to drawing that gun with your finger alongside the gun, right along where the trigger guard is, just up above it is where most people normally set that finger. That index finger is going to be pointing pretty close to where that bullet's going to make impact.
Right. Now, here's the other caveat with all of this as well. When you're practicing with your firearm, unless you are actually at the shooting range and you're shooting live ammo down range, that gun, when you're training and you're doing holster draw and stuff like that, that gun should not have a round in the chamber.
No, should not.
You should never try any of these maneuvers with a round in the chamber. That gun has to be empty.
Definitely, because you don't want to, as you're training and getting used to doing all of this, have a round in the chamber and accidentally discharge it. Now,
right.
If you are comfortable with your firearm, and for a complete novice, I wouldn't even recommend having a magazine in.
I would agree with that too.
If you're comfortable with your firearm, and because there's going to be some difference when you put a magazine in there and weight.
Right.
If you're comfortable with it, there's not a problem with having a loaded magazine in there as long as there's nothing in the chamber.
Yeah, I think it's progression. I think it's steps. When you first start, keep it empty, keep the magazine out. As you progress and you get better and better, then you could maybe put for the weight of it, you put the magazine in there. There should never be one in the live chamber unless you're on a range or it's holstered and you're out. That's a big subject too.
It is.
Whether you carry your firearm with one in the chamber or one not.
This is part of why we get along so well and can have these conversations. That is the next question I was going to ask you about.
And I don't know your list. I don't know your list.
This isn't even on my list. It just came to me as we were talking. What is your personal preference? And I'm going to guess, just knowing you, that your personal preference is around chambered.
Yep, I do like a round chambered. Here's why. So I go in somewhere, right? Pick a fast food restaurant. I'm getting ready to order, and the guy in front of me pulls out a gun and says, "Give me all your money," and I think he's going to start shooting. So they're not operating. Maybe I see his finger move to his trigger. Now I have a choice. If I'm going to, I don't want to pull my gun, rack it, because that's going to make noise, and he's going to look over and go, "What are you doing? You're not ready and engage." At that point, you don't want to even pull the firearm. At that point, I would say, if you're carrying one outside of the, not in the chamber, don't even think about pulling your weapon. Now, if you're in the back and you could rack it where you can get away with it, okay, I can see that. But no, I mean, I kind of want it point and click. I just want that gun won't go off on its own.
Right.
It takes manual manipulation of the trigger. I will pull it, and if I have to pull the trigger, I'll pull the trigger. Now you've got a split second for my finger to go onto the trigger and to pull it before you drop your gun or throw your hands up or whatever. Show me that you're not going to kill anybody. It's a very slim window. It can be done. It has happened.
Yeah,
but I like it in the chamber.
Well, and you're someone that probably in that situation, that's going to be a last resort of pulling out that firearm and discharging it.
Correct.
And you're probably not going to even pull it out until you get to that point where in your mind you've looked at the variables and determined this is what needs to be done.
Yeah, because here's the problem with it. You don't want to be... I know everybody wants to be that hero. Everybody wants to be a hero and I save the day. But what you don't realize is if you do that and you're not that fast, or they're a little faster, or they already have a gun on somebody, by the time you take unholster and you line up on them, they're already out. They have a jump on you. It's tricky. It's now if it was someone and they're not shooting and I'm not 100% sure, just give them the money. They'll run away. That's fine. But if they're already shooting and I see them take out 2 or 3 people and I see them kind of going down the line,
then it's no questions asked.
Yeah,
you're going to drop them.
Right. So I guess it's situational, and that's what people don't understand. People think, oh, you carry a gun, so you're just going to shoot the first person you get. If someone has a gun, you're going to shoot them too, or if they had a knife, you're going to shoot them. No, it's still situational. If a guy has a knife and he's on the other side of the street and there's traffic coming through, no, I'm not.
And there's no one else on the other side of the street for him to stab.
I'm not even going to bother drawing the gun. I mean, he's more likely to get hit by a car.
Yeah,
trying to get to me from me shooting him.
Mm-hmm. And my thought on it is, going back to the old saying, it's better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it.
Yeah.
And I would be completely overjoyed, 100% happy, and ecstatic if I lived the rest of my days on this planet with a firearm on me and never having to use it.
Right.
It's like I've said before, it's an option of last resort, and when it's going to save people. Now getting back to the chambered, unchambered, personally right now I carry with it unchambered.
Okay.
A couple different reasons for that. One, we both have children. Yours is older than mine. I do it as partly a safety precaution so that when I take it and put it away, because I don't put mine into a safe so that if I need it, I don't have to worry about getting into the safe to get it if someone breaks into the house. So I don't want, not that I would expect my children to do anything with it because I've talked to them about it, but I don't want that chance of them doing it if they have a friend over and their friend goes in and decides to dig around and finds it. I don't want there to be a live round in there.
No, and I could understand that. And here's the thing with that question. What's the right answer for me isn't the right answer for everybody. And that's the only thing I dislike with some of the people in the gun community is that's has to be one way or the other.
Right.
And it's situational to me. There are times where I've actually carried it unchambered. I will tell you, and I don't know, maybe it's it's more psychological as far as the gun. When I'm carrying a 1911 or a hammer gun with a gun with an external hammer.
So for those of you that don't know, something that is not like a Glock that has an internal firing pin.
Right. It actually has an exposed hammer that has to go back and then forward. As a general rule, I like to carry those without one in the chamber because I don't like the hammer back all the time. I like the hammer forward, resting, and then racking it because that's going to cock the hammer back. Generally, those guns go from single action to double action.
Right.
So a Glock or some of the other guns that are internal hammers where there's no exposed hammer or anything like that. I think the best example would be a revolver. Now, a revolver is a little different because that's 6 rounds and you just carry them all in the chamber. So, yeah.
Well, and, when I practice drawing my firearm, one of the things I do, because I know currently I'm not carrying it with a round chambered, is I build into that practice racking that so that I have a round in the chamber as I'm pulling it out, drawing it, and leveling it up. So that my mind builds that muscle memory, my body gets used to it and knows, here are the steps that I have to do automatically. Now, I'm sure there will be a day where I'll decide that I want to carry with a round in the chamber, be it my children are older or whatever the case is.
Right.
And, I think you're right. I think that there are too many people in the gun community that say, oh, you have to do it this way. It's just, if you're not doing it this way, you're wrong.
Right.
No, it's one, I don't think you should ever carry a firearm if you're not comfortable with it.
Correct.
And if you're telling me I have to carry a firearm and it makes me uncomfortable to carry the firearm that way, that's a problem.
Right.
So...
Well, and that's the problem, and that's a big problem. If you are not comfortable carrying a gun, you should probably not carry a gun.
Definitely.
Now, I will tell you, you're generally not comfortable carrying a gun. When you first start out, one of the first things I tell people before we do anything with firearms or before they start carrying it out, I say, you know what? You're going to carry an unloaded gun like you would out in public, and you'll have it and walk around your house. Mm-hmm. Go do the dishes. Go do all your daily tasks with that gun there. Get comfortable. Get used to it being there. And then once you get comfortable with it being there and it's not doing anything, and you're like, oh, okay, this isn't so bad, then you graduate. It's steps, and it's. I want to say it's a little bit of baby steps.
Yeah, definitely. And the great thing about that is after COVID, a lot of people work from home now.
Right.
So if you're just getting into this and thinking, maybe I'd like to conceal carry, get your rig, get your firearm, put it on, unloaded, and do your job.
Yeah.
You're going to sit there for 8 hours or so with it. Yep. Do that for a week. You'll get real comfortable with it on you. You'll find I have to have it cocked just a little bit this way and over right here on my hip and where it fits comfortably. You'll get used to sitting on it because I will tell you, sitting with a concealed carry holster is one of the most uncomfortable things to do until you get it right.
Yep.
Even after you get it right, it's not always comfortable.
Right. And you know where other people have the most issues with firearms?
Where's that?
The bathroom.
Yeah.
Bathroom is like the number one hardest place to deal with a firearm.
That's the biggest reason I don't appendix carry.
Oh, so when you drop your drawers to go to the bathroom, that gun doesn't fall out, right?
Right. Well, that or it's just in the way. I tried it once, and it's just in the way. You got to remember, you've got that holster, and if you're carrying something that has an extra mag attachment, you've got a whole bunch of material there right in front of your junk that now you have to clear so you can pull your junk out and pee.
So, and here's the other thing that I've heard people do as well. So I've heard the people say, well, the guy went to the bathroom and then he walked out of the stall and left. Well, he left his gun on the toilet rack.
Oh, jeez.
That's actually happened more times than not. And
that's a big safety issue.
It is a big safety issue. It really is. But there's a little bit about that obviously that's a new person carrying. Mm-hmm. It's because they've never... That's why I said, carry it around your house. Do your normal stuff. Go to the bathroom. Yeah. Put it down. Because if you're not used to carrying it, and you're like, oh, I got to go to the bathroom. I'll just put this here. And then you're done and you go up. And if you're not used to carrying it, you're not thinking, oh, I got to put that back. It's not like you're trying to endanger anybody. You know, they're expensive. No one likes to leave them behind. So no one does it on purpose. But I could see it happening, and that tells me that's someone that is inexperienced.
Right. And you know, I saw someone watching something on a video on YouTube, and he was talking about appendix carry and giving the reasons why that's his preferred carry method. Which, again, great. If that's what you like, by all means do it. If that's what makes you comfortable, that's what you do. But and he brought up the whole going to the bathroom thing,
right?
And he said, well, what? And he was standing there acting like he went to a urinal or a stall, and he said, I just pull the whole thing out, stick it underneath my arm, do my business, and then put it back in. That tells me either the rig you're carrying doesn't have enough retention because it just like it was nothing, it came off and went back on, or you have done this so many times that you are the master of it.
Right, and you actually do become the master of that kind of stuff. You really do. There's almost second nature with what you do. So
and to him, it was muscle memory. It was boom under his arm, acted like he went pee, slapped it back in as he was zipping up his pants, and.
So, what do you prefer to carry? How do you prefer to carry?
I prefer a hip carry just slightly in front of 3 o'clock.
Okay.
So, probably at about a 2:30.
Okay.
And then I get a little bit of angle to mine. I'm actually going to start adjusting the rig that I have because you can make some adjustments on this one as far as the angle of how it is. And I think I'm going to angle it just a little bit more naturally. And
see, and everybody has their preferred method. And I say everybody has their preferred carry method. But I don't have one. I wish I did.
Yeah.
I want one. But I've shoulder holster carry.
I like shoulder holster as well. It keeps it out of the way. It's very comfortable. Yep. Downside to that is if it's in the summer, right, you've got to have something covering that, which isn't always practical. So
if it's winter, that's my preferred is shoulder carry. It's out of the way. I don't have to worry about it. It just seems better for me. And I don't like cold, so I'm always wearing something anyway.
Right.
Summer, I will say I do like hip carry, or I do like small of the back. There's a lot of people that don't like small of the back because it's in the back, and if someone comes up behind you. I have got pretty good peripheral vision, and I also don't let anybody get too close to my back anyway. I've always been that way. So if I see someone going through, I purposely turn. I've always done that. But another carry that I really like is, and it mostly fall or spring carry, I like ankle holster.
Ankle holster is good. Now ankle holster, you do have to have a little bit of mobility to yourself because you're reaching down to your ankle to grab that firearm.
Right.
You also can't be carrying anything real big. You're not going to carry a .357 in an ankle holder. It's normally that's right. Something for a nice small firearm. Normally, if you're carrying multiple firearms, that's where you put your backup.
Yep.
Getting back to your small of the back carry. I'm not a big fan of small of the back. One. What you mentioned, a lot of people say, if someone comes up behind you, it's easier for them to get to it. Again, two of us are very observant people. I'm not going to let anyone get that close to me from behind. I'm very aware of my spatial awareness. But the other problem I have with that is if something happens, and it's something that doesn't make me draw that firearm initially. I'm out and someone starts something and I go to nicely break it up and then they turn on me.
Right.
99% of fights end up on the ground. Now, because of things that I've done in the past, I'm comfortable with being on the ground. But if I'm carrying in the small of my back and he's got me mounted or he's in my guard or whatever it is that he's on top of me, I'm now laying on that firearm.
Right.
If he pulls out a knife, which then makes it a deadly force situation, I can't get to that firearm very easily.
Yeah. I mean, there's pros and cons.
Right.
There's pros and cons everywhere you go. I'm not a fan of carrying it in front at all. I'm sorry, but I've watched too many people shoot their little member off or cause problems there that I'm never comfortable with that.
And again, it goes to what you're comfortable with.
Right.
And I know plenty of people that they will appendix carry 365 24/7. That's where they put it. They've trained their mind to that's where it is. And that's great because again, it comes down to training, getting your body to remember what to do on its own,
right,
and being comfortable with what you're carrying and where you're carrying it.
Yeah, there's already a gun there. I don't need two in that spot.
It can make it awkward in some situations.
Right. Now, I'm not a fan of off-body carry to a certain point, but I see my wife. That's what her preferred method is because I think it's harder for women. I think really. But if I could bag carry, if I have like a strap bag on me, and I know that's actually strapped to me, I actually prefer carrying that way the most because then it's off of me. If anything happens where I need to get that out of this, if I need to remove the gun from the situation, I can just hand that bag over to my wife and say, "Hey, take this and go."
And it's easier for a female to off-body carry because they typically have a purse or some sort of bag that they have with them.
Right.
I'm with you in that I'm not a huge fan of the off-body carry just because I may not have as much ability to control where that firearm is and what's going on with it. If it's in my waistband, it's with me wherever I am.
Yeah.
If I'm... And again, if I've got it in something, over my back, if I've got it in a backpack and I've got that, backpack, both straps over my shoulders, it's not going anywhere unless you're taking me with it, and I'm not a small person to take with it. So,
right.
But if I've just got it in a bag that I'm carrying or whatever, that's another thing. It doesn't take much for someone to run by, and again, we're aware of our situations. We'd probably pick up on it, but it doesn't take much for someone to run by, grab that, and take off.
Right, and that's why if it's even when I'm telling my wife when she carries it in her purse, she needs to have that strap over her head. That way, someone can't just run by and get it off of her shoulder.
Not just over the shoulder. You put it over your head, so it's going cross body. Yep, exactly. So let's talk about kind of the same thing. We briefly touched on this a little bit with different firearms, but the best tool for the job.
Oh,
here's where
the one you have access to.
Yeah, whichever one you can grab first is. But I think that people also need to be strategic in their thoughts for firearms, and this is more in a home situation where maybe you're not just relying on your everyday carry sidearm.
Right.
I've got a friend that up and down swears all I need is my 30-06. Well, that's great if all you're going to do is deer hunt.
Right.
But if someone breaks into your house, that's not the first thing I want to shoot someone with if I have to.
That is true. And you're right. It is the right tool for the job. So if I'm running if I'm on a ranch and I'm out or if I'm out in nature and I'm out and about, I'll be honest, I have a couple 22 caliber single action revolvers. I'd probably carry one of those because really the only thing I'm going to really run into out there is going to be a snake, or something very small. I'm going to carry that. And if it's any bigger, a lot of times the noise alone will scare it off.
Right.
So that's as far as I'm concerned, that's the tool for that job. If I'm in my house, that's a tough one because I think my go-to would be probably, I don't know, my little Derringer. I like my little Derringer. I know my house. Mm-hmm. I know the corners of my house. So if someone's coming around the corner, I can get right up on that corner, and as they come around, I'm right on them. It's so small that even if they catch me right on them, they can't get a hold of it. There's nothing for them to grab.
Yeah.
It's too small. I know I have to be right up on them. So as far as the self-defense case is, no one goes shooting and does any kind of mass shootings or anything with a Derringer.
Right. Yeah.
It's
you
one
got
of those.
one or two rounds maybe, and if you've got one of the box ones, you might have 422 in it. So.
Yeah. I think my little revolver has 522s in it, and the 38 2 rounds.
Yeah.
If that's going to be my first one,
and horribly inaccurate beyond 5 feet.
Yeah. I mean, you have to be right on them, and so, I mean, you kind of have to put yourself in that. Now,
that's where you and I differ. You're talking about being right on them. To me, if I'm in a situation where I'm defending my house, and like you, I know the corners of my house, I know the angles, I don't want to be right on top of them. Because even though I know I can handle things, that gives them an advantage, and it takes away the advantage of having that firearm.
Yeah.
I mean, I would much rather space between us because I know my house, and if I hear footsteps in my house, I know roughly where those are going to be.
Right.
Now, I'm not going to blind fire in my house because, again, I have children. If one of them is up going to the bathroom or something, or decides to go upstairs and get a glass of milk in the middle of the night, I'm not going to blind fire. If you're firing, you want to know what you're firing at. That's
right.
Rule number one. Which is why I am a big fan of whatever you choose to have in your house for that self-defense, mount a light on it.
Yeah.
One, if it's dark and you have a nice bright light on that, it's going to blind them.
See, now that's also why I like to be up close and personal. If I'm in your face and I hit you with a flashlight, I'm blinding you. If I have distance between you and you see my flashlight go off and then I don't see another person there, they now know where I am. That's where, if I'm up close and personal and I hit them with a light and then there's some other guy that goes, oh, and they're turning around, I'm so close to the other guy that there's a good chance, if they're not a good shot, they're going to hit their own friendly.
Yeah.
And I'm all good for that. I'll use them as a meat shield.
Definitely. I don't have a problem with that, but at the same time, I look at it as, again, going back to awareness, which I've said a lot of times, I think people need to be more aware of their surroundings.
Yeah.
I think both of us, if we got woken up in the middle of the night, could pretty much establish, is it one person walking around in our house? Is it two people? Is it more than that?
Right.
And that's going to dictate how we handle things, because if you hear a bunch of footsteps, you're not going to grab that Derringer that only has 2 shots.
No. And you're 100% right. So if I hear, like, people talking and multiple voices or I look out, as I get up, I look out the window and I see 4 or 5 people coming in there, we're going a different route.
Right.
So I just kind of swing wide and I pick something else up.
And again, it comes to the right tool for the job.
Right.
The job has changed. You need a different tool.
Yeah.
And I know that there are different camps on this, but the main 3 camps are an AR type rifle, a pistol, or a shotgun. And they all have their pluses and minuses.
For home defense?
Right, for home defense.
Okay, yeah.
And they've all got their pluses and minuses. I mean, I think an AR is good because you typically have overwhelming firepower at that point.
Right.
You've got a 30-round mag, and it's not too difficult to grab another one to carry with you.
No, not at all.
They're very accurate. Right.
The problem with that in close quarter combat is it's a lot more of a rifle, which means if they get within barrel length of you, right, and they can grab it, you're going to end up fighting with a gun.
Right. You're battling over who has control of that rifle, and if they've got a buddy with you, then you're not doing yourself any favors.
Correct. That's where a pistol may you keep saying best tool for the job, and it really depends. I mean, I could see a situation for all three of those weapons.
Definitely.
I'm less of a shotgun guy in the house too, only because I own my home, and home repairs are expensive.
Yeah, definitely. So are funerals. So
yeah, drywall's expensive. I don't know.
Well, here's my big.
What does drywall do in this situation?
It crumbles.
Right.
Here's my big proponent for shotguns. If you're not overly sure of your aim,
yeah,
you don't have to worry about pinpoint accuracy. It's point and fire.
Right.
Generally, if you're in a house, you don't have to worry about distance, so you're not firing beyond the capable distance of that spread.
Yeah.
And, there's something to be said for if you've got a pump-action shotgun, for racking that, scaring people away.
I was just going to say, the only reason I do a shotgun is I do not keep one in the chamber, because if someone breaks in, I want them to hear that thing load. Mm-hmm. There is some kind of shiver that comes up your back when you're in a dark house, not knowing what's going on, and you hear a shotgun rack. There is nothing that's scarier.
Now, I've got a plan in my house. I've got a stereo system set up, and I've got it queued up permanently. So someone breaks into the house, they may hear that, and then I'm going to hit play on the stereo, and they're going to hear "Let the Bodies Hit the Floor." So if they're not scared at that point, they deserve what's coming to them.
Yeah.
I say that in jest. I'm not going to give myself away that easily.
Right. Or you say, "Oh, I've been waiting to crank out a couple rounds on someone." Yeah. There's also a psychological warfare. That's what that pump action does.
Oh, definitely.
There's just something, I think if I would prefer a pistol, just because I could draw it in, I can move it around. It's just more versatile.
And you're more nimble with it. It's you don't have to worry as much about someone getting a hold of it. You can hold a pistol close into you and still fire it if you need to. And it's, again, you're in a house, you're typically close quarters, so you don't have to worry about the not having a long barrel for the accuracy.
Right.
Most pistols, as long as you're getting good ammunition, you don't have to worry about over-penetration.
Right.
Which that's another big thing to be concerned with when you're thinking about what the best tool is for the job in your house.
Right.
And if you think your best tool is a 12 gauge and you load that up with slugs, be prepared to fix the 3 walls behind what you shoot.
Right. Well, and that says something to, I'd probably say one of my favorite would be like a 1911 sitting right by your bed. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's a 45. It's going to stop whatever it hits.
Right.
But it's not going to go over. It pretty much hits it and stops.
Yeah, and a 45 is a great round for that. It's a big, heavy, slow-moving round. It's not going to go through a whole bunch of stuff. It's going to hit it hard and drop it.
And anybody that hears you shoot a 45, if you once you drop the friend, you're probably not going to have to drop anybody else. Everybody else is going to run.
Right.
Generally, that's what's going to happen.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And unless they really have some sort of vendetta against you or something like that, if they're just your average B&E trying to steal what you have, and at that point, let them take it. I mean, if they're not a threat, now, again, every situation is different. If my children are with me, I'm going to be far more concerned about someone breaking into my house and what they might do.
Right.
If it's just me, okay, I'll sit here in my room and I'll be ready in case they come into my room.
Right.
But if they want to ransack outside of it and take it, I've got insurance.
Yeah.
I don't need the headache that comes with if you have to discharge that and shoot someone.
There's a lot to be said that if someone starts to break into your house, them just seeing you with a gun is enough to say, okay, no,
right.
I'm going to go down the street where they don't have a gun.
Again, it comes down to the psychological aspect. They hear you rack that 12 gauge.
Yep.
Or they hear you rack anything, because middle of the night it's probably quiet in your house, so even if you have a 45 and you rack it or a Glock and you rack it, they're probably going to hear that.
Right.
But no, it's I think that you're looking at the best tool for the job for yourself. You're looking at situational too. If someone breaks into my house and it's just me there, I'm probably not going to go looking for them, because the only thing I have to worry about is if they come to where I am, and at that point then I'm going to defend my ground.
Right. Now,
If my children are there, now that changes things a little bit, because as a father, my job is to protect my children.
right.
And if you come into my house and pose a threat, which by coming into my house you are uninvited, you are posing a threat.
Right.
I'm probably going to look for you. And you're right. If their average B&E just some thugs or whatever, you drop that first one. The rest of them, however many there are probably going to scatter.
See, and the responsible person in me agrees 100%. But there is no, I won't do it. I don't. It's when you talk shit. We always talk shit. You just want to go out there and pistol whip them, just to put the fear of God in them. Sometimes, maybe if you don't ever do this again, or make them think about ever doing it again. I think you and I are a little bit different in this situation too, as we have other means of defense in our house, which is 2 dogs.
Right.
We got some imposing mutts here that,
and that will keep people out of the house in and of itself. Even if you have your dog kenneled and they can't get out, they come up to that door and start messing with it, that dog's going to bark. And we've both got dogs with big, deep barks.
Right.
No one wants to tangle with a dog.
Right. Now, my dogs are trained too, so I am about 95% sure that if someone came to my door and they were going to cause harm, that my dogs would probably rip them apart.
Oh, definitely. I know your dogs would. I mean, we've tried it with your dogs. I've taken a little baseball bat and acted like I was going to attack someone in your house, and your dogs know me. They greet me at the door, and they're all excited to see me. They're normally wondering why I don't have my dog if he's not with me.
Right.
But as soon as I make some sort of aggressive move, they get in between me and that other person and start snarling and growling at me.
Oh yeah, we had a DoorDash person, and the DoorDash was afraid to even come to the door. He's like, "I'm scared of your dogs." I'm like, the door's wide open.
Yeah.
They're standing at the threshold. They won't cross that threshold unless I give them the command to.
Right.
And that guy was terrified. And my girls, they sound pretty vicious sometimes.
Well, so. And they're not small dogs. They're each 40 pounds or so.
50.
50?
Yeah, they're about 50 each.
And you got 50-pound dog coming at you. That'll stop you and make you think twice.
Yeah, so I've kind of got the 1-2 punch there. I mean, they're going to see those dogs, and I don't know. Don't worry about the owner. Beware a dog.
Yeah, and really, when it comes down to it, do either of us know what we're going to do? I mean, have you ever had someone break into your house while you've been there?
No, I'm lucky I haven't.
Yeah, knock on wood. We're both fortunate in that. So, in all reality, we don't know what we would do, but we can have a plan for it, and that's again part of the training.
Right.
You have a plan for if this scenario happens. What am I going to do?
Right.
What am I going to tell my family to do if this situation happens?
Yeah, and I think our plan. Luckily, our bedroom is in the back, and Mikey is right across. So if I position myself in that hallway, I can see with his door shut. I am the final point that you're gonna. If you come into that hallway, you are in my kill box.
Right.
If I don't know you, and I think you're a threat. Now, I say that, but I have no idea if I'm able to get them in the kill box, because these girls might change that whole plan.
Oh, yeah. They may tackle them and drag them downstairs and decide, hey, late dinner.
Yep. And I say that saves me ammo costs, too.
Yeah.
Just great, isn't it?
Save you on dog food, too, after they take a couple chunks out of them.
Right, yeah.
So, something else I wanted to talk to you about, and we're going to definitely go long here, but that's okay. I plan on doing some longer podcasts, so this may be one that you have to listen to in sections.
Okay.
But and I bring this up just because in Maine we had a situation, and it seems to happen, a couple times a year, once a year, whatever it is. There's a mass shooting, and then the anti-gun people, we need to ban assault rifles.
Sure, ban them, because there's no such thing.
Yeah, ban assault rifles all day long, because there is no such thing as an assault rifle. I mean, you break it down, and I guess, yes, there is an assault rifle, because if you use a rifle to assault someone, technically you've assaulted them with a rifle. But
if I assault someone with a pencil, that's
Yeah.
an assault pencil too.
I can put a pool ball in a sock and hit someone with it, and now it's an assault pool ball sock.
Yep.
I mean, for those of you that don't know, the whole term was coined to strike fear in people, and it was made real easy just because of the rifle, the AR-15, which AR does not stand for assault rifle.
Nope.
It stands for Armalite Rifle, which is the company that developed it and patented it,
Right.
and that was their 15th model.
Right.
So, yeah, AR-15 does not stand for assault rifle. It stands for Armalite Rifle,
Right.
which that patent has now been to the point where it can be, manufactured, models of it manufactured by other companies, which is why you see Colt with one, Smith & Wesson, Daniel Defense. It's,
Right.
the most produced firearm in the U.S. is an AR variant.
Well, and here's the reason why. The reason why is it is very easy to fire.
Mm-hmm.
It is very simple to fire. Firearms are really, some of them can be very, very bulky. So if you have a long rifle with no collapsible stock or anything like that, or no adjustable stock, if you're a female or you don't have, you're not a big person, sometimes holding that gun out so long kind of gets you tired. Okay, so I would like to see my wife, shoot that gun, and I want something that she's comfortable with. If Mikey needs to grab a gun, I want something he's comfortable with. I want something that they have the less resistance to use. Because let's be honest, if my wife is not comfortable shooting it, she's less likely to shoot it. Mm-hmm. For years, my first wife did not like 45. She didn't like 1911. I also had my daughter who lived with me, and she did not like a big gun either. She had smaller hands. So I'm like, yeah, no point in having a 1911 because I'm the only one here. And if they had to grab it and get to use it, I don't want them to hesitate. So I'm going to get something, and I'll carry something that they're comfortable shooting as well. That's why I like the AR platform. Mm-hmm. It is easy to shoot. If she needs to fold it down to move closer to her body, she can do that. If you're taller and longer and you need to extend it out, you can do that.
It's completely modifiable to fit your body.
Correct.
You can put a foregrip on it to help you hold it. And you can put either a vertical or an angled foregrip.
Yep.
And there are so many things that you can do with the AR, and that's part of why it succeeded as much as it is.
Right.
Is you and I can each get the exact same AR. We can go and buy, the same model AR from the same manufacturer at a gun shop, and then we can make them completely different,
Correct.
Depending on how we want to modify them.
Yep. And we probably would.
Mm-hmm.
We have different styles and different taste.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But the other nice thing about the AR is, for the most part, any of them that you buy out of the box are pretty ergonomically sound.
Correct.
They're made to fit the body.
Right.
And I can't remember the last time I saw an AR for sale that didn't have a collapsible stock.
Correct. Yeah, there's not too many of them out there. You can buy them with the fixed stock still and have them as an aftermarket now. But now there's also a myth of, well, you can't hunt with an AR either. That's not true.
No,
you can hunt with it. It's actually a pretty good hunting rifle as well.
It's great for small game.
Yep.
And you can even take down small deer with an AR. If you're a good shot, you're not dealing with a big, heavy round, so you do have to be a good shot with it if you're going for something like a small deer. But
well, now you're not talking about just the AR platform. You're talking about the AR-15 platform, because I have an AR-10.
Right, AR-10, yeah, that you're firing a 308, so that
Right.
you can take down larger game.
Correct.
But, the AR-15 specifically, just because that is the most popular rifle in America.
Right.
I know people that have a lot of land, and they use that when they're going out in case they're a coyote or something.
Right. Well, it's great for small. Well, for small, it's a varmint round.
Yeah.
It's designed for foxes, coyotes, small little things like that are kind of they could possibly hurt your cattle or sheep or whatever
Right.
you're farming.
Oh yeah, definitely. And going back to kind of the whole kind of mass shooting thing, here's where I think the left has it wrong. One, I don't think they should ban any firearm. When the Second Amendment was written, the people had better firearms than the standing army.
Well, when it first started, there was no standing army. It was militia.
Well, no, we did have a Continental Army. During the Revolutionary War, we formed a Continental Army.
Right, and then it was disbanded pretty quickly.
Right. Afterwards, it was disbanded. They still kept small bits of a standing army, but for the most part, it was militia at that point. But if you look at the standard army musket at that time, because it was a musket, it wasn't a rifle.
Right.
So it was smooth bore. It was essentially a shotgun that fired out a big ball.
Right.
They were using the Brown Bess, which was an English musket. Most of those we got from England, either through commerce prior to the Revolutionary War or taking them during the Revolutionary War.
Right.
Now, I can't say the majority, but a large number of the colonists had one of two rifles. And they were rifles. They had a rifled barrel, which made them far more accurate.
Right.
But they had either the Kentucky long rifle or the Pennsylvania long rifle.
Yep.
And there's only slight difference between the two. They're both pretty much the same. I think the difference is one of them, the rifling is clockwise. The other one, the rifling is counterclockwise.
Yep.
But
and the pitch of the pit. One of them has a little more of a pitch on the shoulder.
Yeah.
But it's to the point where you can't really notice it.
They're essentially the same rifle, and for the time, amazingly accurate.
Oh yeah.
And the reason that people had that is a lot of the food they got as far as meat came from hunting. You needed an accurate rifle.
Right.
So right there, the people that had those had a better firearm than the standing army or what would be issued if that army was called back up.
So the other thing that happened because of those type of guns too, they also stored those guns unloaded. Mm-hmm. They stored it unloaded, and so now that gets back to modern times where people are like, well, even it was illegal to store guns loaded back then. Well, you're also talking about guns that actually had black powder just loose. A lot of these guns sat above a fireplace. Mm-hmm. That's where they mantle and they put them up on the fireplace. So black powder and fire, bad combination. So there's a problem with, there's a potential for those to go off. Mm-hmm. Because if you have them loaded and you have that hammer back and it's flintlock and it sparks, it could light the fire. You don't have that problem with modern firearms.
The other thing that you had back then is, again, you had loose black powder.
Right.
And if that black powder gets wet, it's useless.
Correct.
Now you have a self-contained cartridge. You don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, so the modern advances in firearms kind of makes that argument of unloaded or loaded weapon in a house kind of null and void there. Mm-hmm. So it's if they had modern cartridges back then, that wouldn't have been an issue.
Right. But going back to, I digress to the whole, here's to me where the ability to concealed carry negates the idea of we need to ban quote unquote assault rifles because they're used in mass shootings.
They're really not, though.
No, they're not. I mean, it's been proven that for one, mass shootings are a very, very small number of firearm deaths.
Right.
Most firearm deaths or injuries even are self-inflicted or suicides. And then you have the firearm deaths where it is law enforcement involved. You know, the mass shootings, if you look at the numbers, is way down on the list.
Well, and even what constitutes a mass shooting, is it 3 or 4?
I want to say it's 3. It used to be 4, but I want to say it used to be 4. They lowered it just so they could bump up the mass shooting numbers.
So in theory, a guy decides, I'm going to commit suicide. I have a wife and 2 kids, and I'm going to kill us all. Murder-suicide, mm-hmm. It does happen. Technically, when he kills all of them, that's a mass shooting. That to me is not a mass shooting.
Right.
That's a tragedy. Mm-hmm. Don't get me wrong, it's a tragedy. But it shouldn't classify as a mass shooting.
Right.
A gangbangers driving by and shoots 3 or 4 people. they may all live, but that's still considered a mass shooting.
Right.
I think there needs to be more, more definition on a mass shooter.
I agree with you there, but let's just go into the land of everyone can conceal carry, and you get some crazy that decides they hate their life, and I'm going to break off from this just for a moment, because if you look at the mass shooters, the people that are truly mass shooters, the ones that want to go in and kill as many people as they can, most of them have severe mental illness problems. That's where we need to put the focus. That's where we need to put the resources, is taking care of these mental illness issues, removing the stigmata. I'll probably get into another podcast where I go deeper into this. But let's just say that someone decides, I hate my life is shit, I want to go kill people because I want to take out that anger on innocent people. So they go and they get their quote-unquote assault rifle that everyone's afraid of. Everyone on the left is so afraid of the assault rifle. It's bad. It's bad. It's only good for killing people.
Right.
Well, so they go to the mall, the bowling alley, the restaurant, whatever.
I'm going to tell you, they're going to go to a place where people aren't going to be able to shoot back at
Right.
them.
And they're going to go to a soft target, which is what the guy in Maine did.
Right.
He went to soft targets that he knew well. And that's why school shootings, soft target.
Yeah.
Malls, soft target. So, but let's just say that you can carry anywhere you want to, within reason. I know you're never going to be able to carry into a federal building. You're not going to be able to carry on an airport unless you're law enforcement.
Right.
But, for the average everyday person, let's just say that you can carry 90% of the places out there.
Okay.
So, one, you've eliminated soft targets.
Right.
Two, they go in and they decide to start shooting. Well, most people that carry are at least fairly observant.
Right.
You're going in with an AR, that's kind of easy to spot. Unless you're walking around it with a trench coat, you're not hiding it very easily.
Right.
Even if you collapse that stock down all you can, it's still a long rifle. You're going to give it away.
Yeah, I guess you could conceal to a certain point, but now if you're completely blinded to that kind of stuff, I can see how you get away with it.
Yeah.
I can't see someone getting by you or me carrying a rifle without going, hey, wait a minute.
Yeah. And like I said, unless they're in a full shoulder-to-foot trench coat where they can really hide it, and then even with how they're walking, you're going to pick up on little tells. But, I've heard the argument of, well, even if you do have your handgun, you're outmatched by their AR.
Not if you're a better shot.
Well, yeah. One, not if you're a better shot. Two, not if you're aware and you pick up what's happening before they have a chance to really start doing damage. But let's just say they're right. And if you go down to it, you're always going to have an advantage with an AR over someone with a handgun, everything else being equal.
Distance is the key.
Mm-hmm. Well, you've got distance, you've got more rounds in the mag, you've got a rifle, so you're going to be more accurate because you have that longer barrel.
Yeah.
Everything being equal, I'd rather have an AR than a pistol if I'm in a situation.
I agree as well.
But here's what these people don't understand is, what's to say that there aren't 3, 4, 5, 10 other people in there that are carrying as well? Now all of a sudden you've negated that advantage because he can't turn to every angle and take that person out.
Right.
You've essentially created a big force multiplier by allowing other people to have a firearm with them to protect other people.
And I'll give you a good example, and it's a movie. You might know the movie, Beverly Hills Cop. One of the clubs, when they're in there taking a drink, and he sees the guy coming in a jacket, and they kind of spread out. That one guy couldn't shoot them all. Mm-hmm. There's 3 of them. They had them. The numbers were on their side. They didn't have the firepower as the other guys, but they were able to get subdue them pretty quick there.
Right. Well, even if you look at a real world type situation, because I know movies, you can do movie magic and you can set things up.
Yeah.
But if you've ever watched where there is someone armed and police respond.
Yep.
They're not
hostage situation,
active shooter situation, potential suicide.
Well, by their logic, if the guy's in there with an AR and all the cops have our pistols, they're no match, right?
But
so why bother?
Yeah, exactly. But if you look at it, you never see all the police stacked up one on top of the other.
No.
They spread out so that they've got angles. So if they have to engage, hopefully one of them has a good angle to engage. 2, they're not right on top of each other, so you can't just empty the mag in one direction and hope you hit things.
Right.
You know, there's logic in there, and the more people that you have that have these firearms and are able to carry these firearms and be responsible with them, you're going to cut down on mass shootings because, one, they're not going to be able to kill as many people, and any life that you can save is a plus in my book. And 2, you're not going to have as many soft targets. Right.
If there's a chance to eliminate the threat, why would you not want the opportunity? It's just dumb to me.
I mean, it's why wouldn't you want to stop it either before it starts or before it gets real bad?
If I saw a guy pulling an AR, AK, a big gun out of let's say I'm in a movie theater, and I see the guy reach down to his bag and he's pulling out a big gun, I'm going to probably just plug him. Yeah. I'll be honest with you.
First thing, I'm in a movie theater and I see a guy walking with a duffel bag. My first thought is, I need to keep an eye on him.
Yeah, I'm gonna. That's gonna catch me and go, wait a minute, and then I'm gonna keep an eye on him. I'm like, that seems a little weird to me. I'm gonna watch that. And the minute he starts pulling a gun out of that, I'm gonna probably unplug him. I hate to say it that way, but I'm gonna say. There's no reason for it.
He's in a movie theater. There's no reason for him to pull out an AR-15, AK, anything like that in the middle of a movie theater when people are watching the movie. I mean, it's not like he's going to show the person sitting next to him, hey, look what I just picked up.
Right. That's not the place for it. That's not the time for it. That to me, that is the equivalent of yelling fire in a movie theater.
Right.
You're going to get all my attention, and I might not plug. I mean, what if he's sitting right in front of me?
Yeah.
I will pull mine and I will plug it right in the back of his head. I said, if you even so much as flinch wrong, your brains are going to be all over the movie screen.
Yeah.
And we're now going to see a gore movie.
No, it's not going to be, Colorado where that crazy decided to shoot up the movie theater.
Yeah, no. Sorry, that's not going to be me.
No, and especially if I'm there with my kids. Again, I'm a father. My first job is to protect my children.
Right. Now, there's a difference if he's at the very front of the movie theater. If I'm right by one of the exits, if I see that and I'm like, we could run out of there, my first thing is that we're going to flee. We're going to get out of there. I don't want to get into a gunfight.
No.
Gunfights aren't good they're not good to have. Now, if I'm pushed to that side, I will.
Right. And here's a perfect thing that could happen in the real world. Let's just say you are more towards the back of that theater. He's in the front. He pulls out a rifle and starts shooting. And you decide, I'm going to be hero of the day and I'm going to drop him. Now, you and I are both very good shots. I don't have a doubt that with the light in the movie theater when a movie's playing, because you can still see what's going on most of the time, especially if someone's standing up and moving around.
Right.
I don't have a doubt that either of us could hit him from that distance. But the variable is the 50, 60, however many other people running around. If you line up a shot and you take that, and as you take that shot, someone runs in front and you hit them instead, now you've taken an innocent life trying to save people, and even if you're not charged with anything there, you still got to live with that.
You could get away. You could get where that's not a crime, so you didn't actually violate the law because technically that death would be on him legally. You don't know what that does to emotionally. That was someone's kid. That could have been a mother. That could have been a father. That could have been a child. And
that could have been the person that cures cancer.
That's why I say that is an absolute last resort. If someone comes in and robs a place, let them rob the place. Money. It's just money. It's just insurance will cover it. If they come over and they want to carjack you, if they have a gun to your head, don't fight them. Don't fight them. Give them your car. Here you go. Insurance will cover it. The police will catch them down the road. Just give them. Here's the car keys. Here's my credit card. There's a gas station right down the street. I get free points there.
Yeah.
and they call the police and say, yeah, I gave him my credit card and told him where my free points are.
Right.
He looked stupid enough to do that.
Yeah, and it's like you said, it's last resort now. There are times where that situation can change. If I'm out with my kids and someone tries to carjack me, and first I'm going to say is, all right, fine, you want it? That's fine. Let us get out of the vehicle.
Yep.
Now, if they tell me, no, you get out of the vehicle, I'm taking them with me, all right, now the situation's changed.
Yeah, that's a different story.
Right. It's now you're not going to get someone that's going to cooperate.
I'll be honest, I'll probably say that I'm cooperating.
Right.
To get an opportunity. At that point, I am trying to pigeon time or whatever. Yeah, whatever. Here's is I may take the key and I may throw them up in the air. When they look up, bam.
Yeah, it's and when I say not cooperate, I'm not going to stand there and tell them, oh no, you're not.
Right.
I'm going to say, okay, well, let me do what you need me to do, and I'm going to make slow movements.
Right.
And I'm going to look for that opportunity.
Yeah, I think that's what people don't understand is when you say you're going to resist, that doesn't mean resist stupidly.
Right.
there's a difference.
So I know we're running long. We've been here for about an hour and 20 minutes almost. I do have 2 more questions that I want to ask you about, just because I really like these questions. I think we can have fun with them, and like I said, we can go long. I plan on eventually doing some of these where it's conversations that may be a 2-hour show. So this will just be a prelude to see how it goes. How much is enough?
How much is enough?
I love this question. How much is enough? I ask this to every gun person I run into.
I don't. The number is inquantifiable.
That's the exact answer. There is never enough. You will never find a gun person that says, "Oh, I've got 2. That's enough. I've got 100 rounds of ammunition. That's enough."
The more, the merrier. I guess just enough to keep off your government radar.
Yeah. And unfortunately, there are states that are California is trying to pass a law. I think it got passed and then appealed, or they're trying to pass it, but where they're essentially going to limit the number of firearms that you can own.
Okay, and they need to limit the number of shoes you can collect, perfume, purses. If because it's a commodity. And let's be honest, if I'm gonna, I can't go out and do a mass shooting and shoot 15 guns at once.
Right.
It's not even realistic to carry that many guns. The most a person can carry without really getting unobstructed or anything like that would be 3 or 4
at the very most, and then you're talking handguns.
Yeah, and you're talking handguns. So Wild West, it was standard to carry 3 to 4 guns.
Right.
And that's because you're a 6-shooter and you just throw the gun away.
And there were revolvers. Shoot. They took a long time to reload compared to magazine-fed handgun now.
Which kind of defeats the purpose that I think with these high-capacity bans. So if you're just going to ban guns and I could only carry 10 rounds, well, then I could just carry 10 guns with 10 rounds each, and I carry more rounds than anybody else, right?
Or I carry 1 gun and I've got 15 10-round mags on me, and I've trained so it takes me half a second to drop that mag and slap another one in. It's stupid, and I don't think you will find a 2A person out there that doesn't say there's not enough. Now
it goes back to your right tool for the job. I mean, I'm sorry, but go to a mechanic and say, okay, you could have 3 wrenches. That's not going to fly,
right? And as far as California and their law that they're trying to pass that you can only have so many firearms. Government has no business in what I own and what I do with it, as long as I'm not hurting someone else or infringing on their rights.
Right.
So the other question I wanted to ask you, and this one I did tell you about beforehand. If you could only have 1, if you were limited to 1 firearm, 1 pew pew, what would your pew pew be?
Oh man, it's that's a tough one. That really is. Like 1, that's it. That's all you could have ever.
Right.
God, I want to say one of the most. Man, it's a tough. I would say if it's with me, lever action 357 38. That round is good enough to shoot out of a carbine rifle. It's a good, accurate gun. It's lever action, so it's very smooth to control. You could carry multiple rounds in it.
It's reliable. You
Very
don't see a lot of
reliable.
issues with lever action firearms.
No, you don't. So I want to say that's probably my choice.
And a 357, that's a big solid round. You hit something with it, it's going to pack a punch.
Right, because that's the 357 38. So if you could shoot the lighter load, the 38 special, or if I could go a little bit bigger and I need something, to take down, maybe a bear is coming at me, 357 will do it.
So for me, and I like the long range rifle. I picked up a 6.5 Creedmoor earlier this year. Need to get out and I want to target that out to be able to hit really long range. I like the idea of long range shooting and the concentration and the calculations that have to go into that, but it's not something that would be practical for multiple situations.
Right.
For me, I think it would be an AR-15.
Yeah.
I think there's a reason it's the number one selling firearm in the country. It's multiple areas you can use it, be it home defense, be it just target shooting, be it sports shooting. It's a solid enough round at a .223 that you can take small game if you have to hunt. And then you can cheat a little bit because, again, AR-15s are extremely modifiable. With the AR-15, you can adjust a little bit what you're firing out of that just by changing out the barrel.
Yeah.
The upper receiver.
You might be cheating a little bit on that.
I didn't put a limit on the upper receiver there, so.
I almost went with the AR-15 as well. I almost went the AR platform in general, but then when I started thinking about the question as it was marinating, that lever action I could throw under my coat. It's a little smaller than the AR. It's a little more. It's a little
more
lighter,
streamlined.
A little more streamlined. I think, man, I just love that gun. That's my Eleanor.
Yeah, they're pretty rifles.
Yeah, there's just something about that lever action that just
takes you back to cowboy days.
Yeah, I love that. I love that one. So,
all right. Well, I think that wraps it up for us, Mike. I want to thank you for joining me again.
No, thank you for having me.
Again, this is the Proud American Patriot podcast. Definitely give us a listen. If you like what you hear, give us a like and a share. Depending on the platform, a heart, big dirty thumbs up, whatever it is. But that's all for today, and I am out of here.